All right, looks like everything's working. Hello everyone, it is George Lee Cakes. I have not been on here for a while, and that's because I've actually been very busy with work. And I've been so busy that at this point, I actually need to start finding people to hire. And so this video is going to be a quick summary of several different roles I have available here at the Virtual Reality Center, also known as Maverick, or Maverick, the Machine and Artificial Intelligence Virtual Reality Center, which is being rebranded this year. But I have several different projects, and what I'm looking for are undergraduate or graduate students who can participate in these projects. Now, they have to be students of Rowan University specifically, or people who are going to be admitted into Rowan University. So for the graduate student portions of these projects, if you're looking at graduate school in the areas of engineering, electrical engineering, and so forth, and you're considering Rowan, this might be a project that you could be part of. It would include things like stipend and tuition, as well as payment of fees, but we'll talk more about that shortly. So let's go ahead over a few of these different jobs. The first I want to discuss is we have several positions, at least 2 positions open for undergraduate students here at Rowan University. The first is for a project called Compassion for Autism. This is a project we have worked on for the past year with other faculty members here at the university. It has been led by a graduate student on the team, and what we've done so far is using the Oculus Quest 2, we've created a virtual reality room where parents will get to run through simulations, not just parents, but physicians as well, and they will get to work with and experience different simulations where they have a child who is highly on the autistic spectrum disorder spectrum. And what's going to happen in these simulations is different events are going to happen, and it's about helping to train and teach parents as well as physicians the correct methods and how best to interact with that person, especially when there are challenging situations going on. One of those challenging situations is if a child with ASD goes to a hospital and there are large overhead or bright overhead lights, there's loud sounds and other things that might be distracting to that child or causing their behavior to change, you need to be able to recognize that as a physician and change the environment so that you can best work with that individual. And we have been creating this virtual reality simulation of that to train and teach physicians as well as parents. What we're really looking for here is 2 students who have some basic programming experience, preferably C# because we do use the Unity engine almost exclusively in my lab. Optionally, if you're familiar with the Oculus Quest 2, that's awesome. We have a lot of the groundwork already put together. It's a series of different stages in this example, levels 1 through 5, where you have different challenging behaviors occurring at each one. Eventually, these Oculus Quest 2s are disseminated to our human factors team, and they go out and actually test this with parents. And we've already done some initial testing and gotten a lot of great feedback on how we can make modifications to better assist and train individuals working with this. So, of course, as I mentioned before, you have to be currently enrolled as an undergraduate student here at Rowan University. But I am looking at anyone from freshman, sophomore, junior, or senior level to work with us over the course of the summer and hopefully longer into other semesters as well. Now, importantly is that you have to be a student at Rowan, but it's okay to be remote. So I know a lot of students go home during the summers or other times where you just can't make it inside of our lab, although who wouldn't want to be here in this lab? Maybe we'll take a tour of it later on. But we have weekly meetings every Wednesday from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. So that is non-negotiable. That is where the entire team comes together and we discuss and do sort of a round table of where everyone's at and how things are doing. And if you want a general description of the project as written by our human factors team and psychological team who are handling this, here individuals with ASD are more likely to frequent hospitals than their developing peers. However, the hospital setting can be particularly challenging for individuals with ASD due to sensory sensitivity, routine rigidity, repetitive behaviors, and social communication deficits. Furthermore, physicians may lack the training necessary to manage the behavior of ASD patients and provide compassionate care. With more ASD patients, efforts must be made to mitigate destructive behavior and increase compassionate care. This is where our project comes in. So if this is a project that you're interested in, these are some of the opportunities you'd have. Obviously, you'd get to do some Unity experience, learn to program things better. We have some avatar work that we have to do where we've imported some avatars from, Mixamo, Adobe's Mixamo Creative Suite, and we've integrated in different animations. We have to do all of that part as well. There's some 3D modeling aspects, but a lot of this is about implementing these different stages, these different levels where you interact with this avatar, and there are different behaviors that happen, and you have to try to do the right thing in each case. So this project aims to make a positive impact on the healthcare industry overall and improve the lives of individuals with ASD. There is funding for this project. There has been for the last year. There will be funding for an additional year for undergraduate students interested in this. Typically, the pay rate is around $15 to $16 an hour, maybe $17 if you have enough prior experience. You're going to gain valuable experience using VR and the Unity engine. You also get to work alongside myself and our entire team of other graduate and undergraduate students on a myriad of different projects, and you'll see what some of those other projects are as we go through this video. And then if you have any of these qualifications or interested in this opportunity, please email me, send me a resume, and a brief statement of interest if you don't mind to Dr. Leecakes, that's me, leecakes@rowan.edu. Don't use my Google email for this that's tied to YouTube. Email me directly at my Rowan address at leecakes@rowan.edu. Now, if you want to, we did provide a short video of some of what students had done in the past semester. So here you can see we're using one of the standard characters that you can download. Creating the avatar itself isn't something we're really interested in, but just getting the behaviors in there and all of the different systems for its behavior. And here it has to do with a series of different instructions. In this case, our avatar is writing the letter A. And in some circumstances, it's text to speech, voice to text. So you get to talk, and the avatar has to behave according to what you're doing. And with that, we're using the built-in systems that are available in the Oculus Quest 2 to do that, convert them over to strings, parse them, and then decide whether or not your command was the right command or the wrong command. At that point, we have a state machine handling each of these characters, and the character then decides, there's different probabilities of whether or not it will do the right thing, or do some sort of misbehavior, or there's a severity of behavior for each of those things. And you can see we've got some basic menus set up. We've got some other areas of it set up. We've got the basic avatars. We also have a system inside of it that allows us to view, that allows us to customize the skin tone as well as the hair color, the size, and sort of general thickness of the avatar to make it closer to whatever the parent's child might look like. And we plan on, we have one level done. We began work on the second stage of this design, and we have a total of 5 that we want to complete. Hopefully, we'll get all 5 done by the end of the year, and then the team will take this and begin testing with them. So if that's something you're interested in, please reach out. Remember, this project is referred to as Compassion for Autism, and it's available for undergraduate students. Let's go to another job solicitation that I've got up. This one has to deal with the FAA. You do need to be a U.S. citizen to apply for this one. But the project has to deal with rotorcrafts, that is helicopters for the most part, and heads-up displays. Originally, this project was working with the Microsoft HoloLens 2. However, since then, we've actually moved to the Vario headset. The Vario headset works with the Valve lighthouses that you put around, that also works with the Vive Index and, the Valve Index and the HTC Vive systems. And this project has been going on for about 5 or 6 years, and it keeps changing with every iteration. But pretty much the way it works is we have a heads-up display, and you're working in Flight Simulator, or not Flight Simulator. Oh, there's another one. Let me see if I wrote it down here. Let's see. Well, anyway, you're working with a simulator through Steam. I forget which one it's called, but you're running that in the background, and then we have a heads-up overlay in the VR and the program running behind that. So you get to see the flight simulator, but we're overlaying on top of that all the data and information about your flight. And the idea behind this is we're trying to figure out how best to display flight information to a pilot to declutter the screen. Now, that's not what this project is going to be about. That's going to be a human factors analysis of what information should be where and at what time, and if you're taking off or landing, how much data or information there is. That's not what this project is about. This project is about continuing to implement new gauge systems inside of it. So we have most of the interface for a flight simulator already reproduced. And the way this works is the flight simulator software outputs all its live data, streams it live to the Unity environment. The Unity environment intercepts all that data, takes it in, and then uses it to visualize a whole bunch of different gauges on the screen, and then you can turn off different gauges or turn on other ones or do other sorts of things. It's kind of interesting, it's kind of fun, and if this is a project you're interested in working on and you're a US citizen, you might be able to go visit the FAA Center as well. So just once again reiterating, because you might be jumping around this video, this is open to Rowan undergraduate students, but I'm kind of open to all majors so long as you have some qualifications. Those qualifications would be hopefully maybe some Unity Engine experience. If you do not have Unity Engine experience, I really need you to have some programming background. Could be C++, could be Java, could be Python, but either way, I need you to know enough programming so that if you haven't done C# before, you will be able to, kind of move into it within a few weeks. If you've got experience with VR development, even better. Specifically, headsets like the Valve Index for this one, because we're working with the Vario headset. If you have experience with flight simulators, that might sound kind of dumb, but piloting that the helicopter and having data pop up and everything, there's a lot going on, and if you're not a good pilot, it's kind of hard to do. So if you happen to be able to fly a plane or a flight simulator pretty well, that's a good thing to have. Of course, I'm always looking for people who are passionate. So even if maybe you don't have a ton of VR experience or your programming experience isn't the best, if you have passion for this kind of stuff and you really love it and you're really interested in it and you want to be part of our team, I find that many people can overcome their limitations, and you can pick up that language, and we're here to help you as well learn as a university, so you'll be able to kind of pull it together and get stuff done. You will be working collaboratively in a team environment. As I mentioned before, this is the Rowan VR Center. It is being rebranded to Maverick, the Machine and Artificial Intelligence Virtual Reality Center, this upcoming summer. So you will be with a whole bunch of different individuals doing a lot of different work. That is, you don't have to be in this building, but you do have to be a Rowan student. But it does require weekly in-person meetings every Wednesday from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. That's when we do our big round table thing for everything. It's a fun project. Like I said, we've been doing a long time, and if you're not remote, you can always come with us to the FAA Center, and so long as we can get you in the building and make sure you pass the security test and everything, you can even see their simulators. And this is also a wonderful project that for undergraduate students can lead to graduate research in the future. And once again, for most of the graduate projects that I pitch, I make sure that you're on a thesis track project route, so you're doing real research, and your tuition is usually always covered. Sometimes we can cover your fees, and almost always we can give you some sort of a stipend to help with your living and food and everything else. So that's the other job. I don't really have a good graphic to show on this one, but if you're interested, let me know. Once again, contact me, Dr. Leecakes, at leecakes@rowan.edu. The next one is kind of fun. So this is for undergraduate students. This is a newer project that sort of popped up on my radar in the last few months, and it has to do with a VR landfill simulation. So my undergraduate degree was actually in civil and environmental engineering. So many times I'll jump into some of these civil and environmental projects, but bring my VR knowledge into it. In this case, for undergraduate students, if you have any interest in modeling or simulation, what we want to do is actually simulate and model parts of a landfill three-dimensionally, so both the top as well as the bottom. So this is going to be working in concert with an AI team who is taking satellite imagery of a landfill, and this landfill is going to have different heat data, and they're going to train a model to learn the distribution of heat over that landfill and try to make estimates about what it might be in the future. On our end, we're going to use a series of different equations that we're going to cut up the landfill into discrete little cells, and we're going to run this equation across every single one, right? And that's going to update what's going on so that if there's heat buildup or pressure buildup, we'll be able to visualize all that information in 3D. This is also about not just creating a simulation of what's going on, but it's about informing the public as to why we do certain practices inside of a landfill. So we're going to take that simulation, map it into a VR world, and then allow guests or people at conferences to change some of the parameters, maybe change the starting temperatures on the boundaries, or perhaps add water coming in from a rainstorm, or maybe something leaks out of the liner. And then you'll be able to change those different parameters and tweak them to make different things happen. Once again, this position is open for undergraduate students, anywhere probably from $15 to $17 an hour based upon your experience level. You do have to be a Rowan student, but I'm accepting all undergrads from freshman all the way up to senior year. And usually we have people who are in engineering, or computer science majors. But once again, if you have a background in this area or you do this as a side project or hobby, I'm always interested in interviewing people who are passionate about doing this kind of work. So once again, experience. This one will require some 3D modeling and VR development because we are creating the simulation from the ground up, and we have to create the 3D models to make it look kind of good. You need at least some visual goodness to what you're making. Some familiarity with the Unity engine would be nice. Some C# programming experience, as most of all of these, would be nice as well. But once again, if you have programming experience in other languages, other object-oriented languages, if you've done OOP and C++, or if you've done Java, those will all work. If you have Python experience, that works. Just takes you maybe a little bit more time to get used to some things. But so long as you have some programming experience, it should be good. As always, passion for creating these kinds of things is always nice. And as usual, if you can't work on site, this can be remote, but it does require these weekly meetings on Wednesdays from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. And let's see, so some more information about this project. Here's some of the things that we're going to be looking at. One is the effectiveness of heat on landfill infrastructure. So the idea that heat can build up over time and lead to its failure. How high temperature pockets inside of landfills develop, and these can cause pressure differentials, and these can of course cause leaks in the future. And then internal dynamics of landfills, their evolution over time at various scales. So we don't just want to run a simulation at like time increment 0 and we're done. No, we want to keep running this over time, and we want to be able to stretch the time so that, okay, this is what's going on year 1, year 2, year 3. Oh, what about 10 years? What about 20 years? What about 50 years down the line? So those are some aspirations for this project. And you will be working with civil and environmental engineers as part of this team. So if you like a multidisciplinary project, this one's really kind of one you might want to check out. And as usual, if you're interested in this, send me a resume, a brief statement of your interest to Dr. Leecakes at rowan.edu, please. And let's see, I believe I have one more. Now this one's a little bit different. So the other ones were for undergraduate positions, which means you need to be an undergraduate student here at Rowan University. This is for a graduate student, which means if you're not a graduate student already at Rowan University, but you're considering graduate school, this might be a project that you want to come to Rowan for. So this is a 3-year funded project called WaterCAVE. We're about, I'd say, 2.5 to 2 years in, so the funding would be available for 2 more years. But the funding does include full tuition, fees as well, and finally, it also provides a stipend of around $15,000 a year, I think, which granted is not a ton, but once again, the idea is that you probably have some sort of a part-time job or something else you're doing in addition to your graduate studies here at Rowan University. So WaterCAVE, what is this actually about? The idea is this is a multidiscipline project where we are going to have people come, usually students, from high schools, and we are going to educate them about the different jobs that are available to early adults that are in the wastewater industry. So most people think of wastewater and they just think, oh, it's going down a tube, it goes to a big processing place, it goes through a couple different things, and then, gray water comes, clean water comes out, or at least water that you spray over, golf courses or something if it's not good enough yet for public consumption. But there's a whole lot of different jobs inside of that wastewater facility. And there's many different avenues you can take in your high school studies where you can target any of these jobs. And really, it's just about making people more aware of what's needed in these areas. And we're going to be using virtual reality. But we're not going to be using head-mounted displays. Instead, we're going to be using large-scale virtual reality cave systems like the one that is behind me right now. I'm trying to see if I can pick this up and move it around, but I probably can't with how my setup currently is. But behind me is this big 10-sided cave system. We also have a sister system in Camden, New Jersey that's 4-sided that was just upgraded. And we're going to be using these to bring school kids in, high school students, maybe even middle school students, and they're going to be learning and walking through an entire wastewater treatment plant in virtual reality. So it'll be up to you to put all that together. So obviously, if you have experience in VR development, now I say that, the reality is very few people have development in large-scale VR displays like this. Lots of people now have experience with the head-mounted displays. Very few have access to these multi-million-dollar systems. So I'm probably not going to get anyone with that kind of experience, but if you do happen to have it, hey, awesome. Familiarity with the Unity engine. Once again, we'll be using the Unity engine, but we'll also be using some plugins to get it to work on multiple panels, such as the Get Real plugin. If you have C# programming language experience, hey, that's great. But once again, so long as you have some object-oriented programming experience like C++ or Java, usually we can bring you in and everything works out okay. If you don't have Unity experience, but you have Unreal experience, we can bring you in too and have you, trained on that instead. So passion for creating impactful and educational applications. Once again, that is the most important thing whenever I bring in a undergraduate or graduate student. Very rarely it's because their grades are phenomenal. Instead, it's because they have put in time and dedication, and they show me that they are dependable and that they are independent and can learn on their own, but also want to be part of the team and really care about what they're doing. Now, this project does require a good little bit of 3D a good little bit, that's kind of weird. But it does require some 3D modeling experience. Now, I'm saying Blender, but if you'd like to use another program, you can. As usual, I would choose Maya. Some of my other faculty would use 3D Studio Max, but Blender is fine as well. Now, as I mentioned before, in addition to being part of this team, we do have 2 years of tuition costs covered and a monthly stipend. And I do believe we can also do university fees as well. So if you are a person who is interested in getting their master's or interested in graduate studies and at least doing something for 2 years, maybe finding another kind of project to finish off your PhD, this could be a great gateway into that. And this is just some more information about the VR Center. I've been calling it the VR Center or Maverick. We're kind of going over a name change in this next summer. But the VR Center has been what it is for the last 20 years. But we are pretty much a unique enterprise funded by state and federal government projects, different sponsored projects. I've been done probably over 50 different projects over my time here. We do have a team of different experts. So you will work on this project with other civil engineers in this case. You might also work with biomedical visualization experts. They're some of our art teams, so they might work on this project as well. Some of the other projects I mentioned, you might have human factors members, you might have members of the AI community who are working on GANs, so generative algorithms or diffusion models, or some people who are working on YOLO models and a few other things as well. So a lot of times you'll be working with many different people across many disciplines. So more about this project, like I said, this is meant for, I guess it's K to 12 students who are going to be touring and visiting this visualization that you create of wastewater treatment plants. We have some initial work done, but it's very preliminary, where we had an undergraduate student start to 3D model out different assets into different parts of the wastewater center, but we're really going to need a graduate student to come in and flesh all that out. We're going to put in avatars. You do not have to model the avatar yourself. We can use purchased avatars if we want to. But each of them is going to have a different job and a different career path, and they're going to have to pop up on the screen and explain to you, this is what I do, this is sort of what I needed to do to get ready for this job, and this might be interesting to you because XYZ. And we'll go throughout the entire treatment center and show off all that stuff. Another thing that they do want, though, is to show off these simulations of extreme flooding and how that can impact the wastewater treatment center. And I'm not talking about doing a full-on simulation. We can just visualize what happens during extreme flooding. So if that's something that's interesting to you, as usual, contact me, Dr. Leecakes at leecakes@rowan.edu. As with all of these projects that I've pitched, They are all available from, everyone has to have a team meeting pretty much from Wednesday at 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. I am interested in hiring for any of these positions as soon as possible. So that's any time between, well, this week and I'd say the end of the summer. Especially for the graduate student position, I expect that anyone who'd want to apply to this would need to, of course, enroll into Rowan's graduate school curriculum and get accepted, and then we could talk to you and see about funding. But anyway, if any of these appeal to you, please let me know. I'm also going to be posting links to these descriptions in the bottom of this video once I am done live streaming this to everyone. I'll see if I can find clips of where these projects are as well and embed those links within the description. And of course, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, make sure you either write so in the comment section below, or you have my email address at leecakes@rowan.edu. Feel free to send that to me at any time. Well, thanks everyone. Now, I don't know if I can walk around with this laptop, but I figured I might show off the lab a little bit. So let's minimize a few things so they don't get in my way, and you also don't need to see my work schedule. Let's go to the webcam only for a minute and take a peek around here. So let's just go over here. Return of the King, haha, no way. Oh, hey, Saad, hey, how are you doing? Any Word document? Yes, I'm going to put some of those up. Hold on a second. Now, Saad, I don't think you're Rowan anymore, so I don't think you can, but I'm going to decouple my monitor. I'm going to keep this headphone set, and wow, that just drastically impacted the performance of everything. But let's minimize this and hope that it continues to stream, and that is not helpful. All right, there we go. So this is the Virtual Reality Center's large-scale cave system. It's a 10-sided cave. We've just refurbished the entire system recently. This is where some of the project will be showcased. So some things of note right now, you'll notice we have this tied up over here. We were actually flying, not flying, but we were suspending drones up here. So another project that I'm not currently soliciting for is Picatinny Arsenal Department of Defense project, where we are using virtual reality to generate synthetic data for machine learning so that we can create scenarios and situations that you can't get in real life, give them to AI teams, they generate and create models that are able to classify different objects like drones or drone swarms in the airspace. And for that, we're actually swinging a drone around inside of here. Another side of that project is below here, you'll see an imitation M2 machine gun that our clinic team, students created. This entire thing, it's not a real gun, but it does function. In the sense that it's tracked motion-wise up here. We have all the different compartments. Now, I'm not a gun person, so I don't know all the different parts, but we can open it up. We can pull back the bolt, and ooh, there we go. I just broke part of it. And we can bring it forward. So this is why the clinic team needs to make this better. So that piece goes into, we're going to ignore that just happened for the moment. Ignore that. They'll need to fix that part. But this is hooked up into our VR display so that you can actually move it around and it tracks in the real simulation environment, and you can even fire it with the buttons on the end over here. So that's that part. Let's go next door and we can show off some of the other elements of our facility. And walking. So we're also right now in the South Jersey Technology Park, and outside over here is of course our VR center. So we have some posters up. Ooh, that looks like crap. So this poster is about our Compassion for Autism job opportunities, showing off some of the different areas. So these are parts that the students have worked on, as well as we had a student team build a drone this last semester and fly it to take data for drones with payloads. And then, of course, we've got some other posters up here about some of our work that we're doing right here in terms of visualizing and creating storyboards and different 3D models of different elements. So here's an example of some of the 3D models that we have created so far. These are all different drones, different vehicles, JLTV vehicles for some of our research and work that we're doing. And yeah, once again, I said that we're sort of a team, a multidisciplinary team here. So I am the Associate Director of Maverick for Virtual Reality, pretty much all realities, but the reality we share together. So this is our visualization and simulation team. I also work with faculty member Amanda Allman in doing the 3D side of things. We also have a sensors and communication team. They deal with Bluetooth connectivity, LiDAR, Li-Fi, a bunch of other things, edge devices, putting AI models on things that could go in a vehicle. This team is our AI team. They deal with the inference, which is analyzing and training different models. Right now, they're primarily using the YOLO model, but they're also into explainable AI, which means why did it detect that object and letting humans know why it's working the way it does. That's loud, I apologize. We have our human factors team. This team is the one that we're working with in VR to create simulations for to basically test the awareness, situational awareness of individuals and increase their survivability. Then we have our materials team who are working on materials to integrate into this object, this JLTV, to protect it from different threats. And let's see over here. Coming in the main lab area, as we can see here. So this is the drone that we had our team create last semester. So this is a hex drone, as you can see from the different blades. It's down at the moment. We crashed it too many times, but it can deliver a payload. And the idea is for us to create real world data sets where the drone is flying in the sky and it drops a payload to the earth. And we then classify all that information and give it to the AI team, who then can use it to train their networks to detect drones. And then hopefully, if a drone has a payload, you know there's something up with it. And you're able to say, well, maybe this drone is a threat, or maybe it's not a threat. We also do some 3D printing. That gun, the imitation M2 gun, all these 3D printers you might recognize from some prior videos that I've done. So I've brought them all into the facility, and we do a lot of printing. In addition to all that, if you're working with our teams, you might be needing to do some 3D modeling or visualization. So Amanda Allman, our faculty member here, these are our Wacom tablets. She's got several of these other ones set up throughout the area. And of course, there's many other facilities that we can work with here in the lab. Like I mentioned before, if you want to work on the FAA project, if you're an undergraduate student, this is our Varjo headset, or Vario. I don't know how to really pronounce it, honestly. But this is sort of like a valve index on crack in terms of how it works. It's very heavy. I mean, this thing is just enormous. Actually takes two of these different power systems right here and to connect in two different display ports going into that, one for each eye. Kind of interesting stuff. Once again, if that's something you might want to mess around with, then let us know. Anyway, I am probably going to head out for right now. I've got a lot of work to do today. The only thing I'll mention while I'm on a live stream is the game has been delayed and developing my own company has been delayed, mainly because of the massive amount of work going on here. But the sooner I find some people who I can hire to work with me on this side of things, the sooner I'm going to get back to all of that stuff. And until then, I'll see you all, and hopefully someone out there is interested and sends me an email. So long, everyone. Have a great day, and goodbye.